The reactions are emotional from Sonya Massey's family all the way to the White House. The video of her final moments is tough to watch.
Anything suspect?
Me.
I didn't know what happened.
Oh, we hurt you. You called us.
Okay.
And then the officer that, ironically enough, is the one that ends up unaliving her, is the one to say, you called us, why would we hurt you?
I'm trying to get help, y'all, but
What do you need help with?
nothing. I just, please God, please, I don't know what to do.
Do with what?
Huh?
What do you need help with?
Nothing. I just wanted to see if y'all could help me.
What do you want help with?
Huh?
What do you want help with?
I heard somebody outside.
Do you see how messed up it is that a person that's looking for safety and protection from people that have always used the slogan to protect and serve instead ends up getting killed by the very people that she went to for protection and safety?
We're going to give our police their power back, and we're going to give them immunity from prosecution, so they're not prosecuted for doing their job.
I have always told you guys that when I think that the people that I'm on the side of, which in this case would be Donald Trump, need to think about something or might be in danger of not handling something the best way, I do think it's important for a person like me to speak up, even if this will never reach Donald Trump, because what it could do is reach other people that are on the same side that I am and give them a different way to look at things and maybe make them think twice before they share terrible memes like that picture that just says, I'm gonna throw a pot of boiling water at this police officer, which I am gonna be honest when I say on both sides, the loudest among us are always the dumbest, but I am tired of the minority of the right, because it is my honest belief from all the conservative people that I've met in my years, and especially in more recent years, that racism is not what drives the Republican Party or people on the right in general. I do not believe that racism is what drives these people at all. But there is a small minority that loves to push the race thing and make it seem like people on the right are racist, and they do us as many favors as the people on the left that push the overly extreme LGBT and transgender agenda. So those people, in my opinion, need to be completely blocked out, not from the government, not from any kind of authority or even social media, but those are the people that we need to make sure to not feed or encourage, because the racism really does nothing to help us on either side. True racism, true homophobia, true transphobia, true hate really do have no place in society or in politics. And I also think the way Donald Trump handles the Sonya Massey situation could either win or lose the election for him. And the lawyer for the family has already come out and compared this to George Floyd, and whether anybody likes it or not, the George Floyd situation did affect the 2020 election. So just like George Floyd affected the 2020 election, I do feel this Sonya Massey situation really could end up affecting the 2024 election. What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. All right, before we get started on this one more than any other, I am going to ask that you like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to comment just to help me on the algorithm, but you don't know what to comment, just leave a knife, because everybody's going to come from my neck on this one. Also, I want to remind you guys, I've enabled YouTube memberships. I'm trying to see how fast I can get to 1,000 paid memberships. So if you guys could support me there, if you guys like what I do on this channel, I will be back to regular and having fun after this video. But on this one in particular, I have to talk about the Sonya Massey situation. And it's only because I have so much experience dealing with the police, not only as a person of color, also as a person that has a lot of tattoos and in a lot of cases is considered a threat as soon as the police see me. And I also don't want you guys to think that this is going to be based on race only, or me saying that race is the driving factor in everything. If you know anything about me, I do not think that race is always the driving factor, but I do think that in the Sonya Massey situation, which for anybody that's not familiar with Sonya Massey is a black woman that was in Illinois. I forget the name of the city, and I'm gonna be honest, I felt a lot of emotion on this one. I really felt for this woman. For anybody that's not familiar, what happened was she called the police to her house. She is a paranoid schizophrenic. That has been confirmed now by her daughter, and she was a little off. She thought there was a prowler in her yard, and there very may well have been. It also may have just been a mental break for her. But either way, the way that the officer that ended up unaliving her dealt with her from the beginning, in my opinion, was the way that a lot of times people get treated when they aren't of a particular class. And this is where I know that some black people will get mad at me, because even when Black Lives Matter was at its height, I was very honest about the fact that I didn't think that going the way of race was really the best way to come at this. I personally feel like in a lot of cases, it's a class situation, because if you hang out with or know any poor white people, they in a lot of cases get the same treatment that most people associate with people of color in the police. So when I say that, it's not at all to disrespect black people or take away from the importance of black lives, even though from the beginning I have been against Black Lives Matter, because I thought they took up a lot of the wrong cases. I thought Michael Brown was the wrong way to go. George Floyd in a lot of ways didn't handle his situation the best. But when it comes to this woman, Sonya Massey, I think that the police need to be trained better in dealing with people that have mental illness. People that suffer with mental illness are going to be a different animal. And if you're not prepared to deal with that, then you should not be a police officer. And don't get me wrong, I don't expect police officers to be full-on social workers. But if you're going to be in contact with people that are living with mental illness, then you do have to have some sort of training in that area and know how to discern whether or not somebody is actually a threat, or whether or not the way that you're behaving needs to be adjusted to maybe help the situation not escalate. Because while we all focus on the way that people deal with the police, I think in a lot of cases we need to deal a little bit more with how police are responding to people, how police are treating people. Because at the end of the day, the police do work for us, or in theory, that's what they're supposed to do. Or else they should take the signs off the sides of their cars that say to protect and serve. Because if you're here to protect and serve, what's all the attitude about all the time? And when Donald Trump says he's going to give pretty much full immunity to the police, I think that's something that's going to eventually, especially with this just having happened, it happened on July 7th was when it happened, and body cam footage was just released yesterday. And I think that with this now being at the forefront of everybody's mind, especially other people of color, it is going to affect the way that people look at what it is that Donald Trump's saying. Joe Biden has already come out and made it about race, which again, I don't think is the smartest way to go, but at least he's addressed it. Kamala also has come out with a statement about it. And so I think that it's very important for Donald Trump to address it, because the fact of the matter is there has to be some sort of medium between police getting in trouble for the smallest things and just doing their jobs, and also police using excessive force. And in this case, I definitely do think it was excessive force. I did watch the video, even though I didn't want to. I know there are people that are fans of watching people lose their lives on the internet. I've never been that type of person. Call me weak if you want to, but it's just never been my thing. I have never been a fan of watching people lose their lives. I watched it just because my best friend had sent me a text message saying saying, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus," which is what Sonya Massey said right before everything escalated. Because to get to the actual story, police get there to deal with this prowler situation. They notice that the windows are busted out in the car in her driveway. The police knock on the door. Right away, I had a problem with the way Officer Grayson dealt with her, because he's upset because he's having to wait. He knocked on the door and she didn't answer fast enough.
What took you so long to answer the door?
Oh, I was trying to put on some clothes, sir. I'm sorry. I was trying to get
I got you. All right.
And to me, that's where I get like, this is your job. Yeah, maybe it's taking a minute longer than you wanted it to take for her to answer the door, but you jumping right away to frustrated does not help the situation. This person has called you because they feel like there is a prowler on their property, and they get a knock on the door, and he doesn't right away identify that he's the police. At first, he's just knocking. And so I could see, if you thought that there's a prowler, you'd be nervous if somebody started knocking on your door. Then she wants the dispatcher to stay on the phone while she's dealing with the police. And I can understand that if you're a person that's already feeling unsafe, and then you have the police in your house and they're starting to ask you questions. Because what a lot of times people don't understand, when you're a person that's deemed to, I guess, be a threat to the police, or they see you as some sort of threat, what people don't understand about that is that you do feel unsafe, because you go from having called the police to feel a level of safety to now feeling like you have to be concerned for your own safety. And that's something I've dealt with when I had to call the police over a DV situation where I had legitimately done nothing wrong. And I was not at all afraid of the person in the way that I thought I was in danger. What I was worried about was anything that I did could have easily been turned around on me, even though I was not at all the antagonist in the situation. And so that's something that I don't think a lot of people pay attention to when they're just an average, everyday person that looks like somebody that the police are going to treat with respect. And in a lot of cases, that's where race does come into it, in the way that if you are a very average looking white person, it's more likely that you're going to be assumed to be an upstanding citizen. And the way that you talk to the police in a lot of cases will be like a buddy. In a lot of cases, the police will give you the benefit of the doubt and treat you like you are definitely the victim, where people like me, people that look like me, don't always get offered that grace by the police. So I fully understand why Sonya Massey wanted the dispatcher to stay on the phone. The dispatcher refused to stay on the phone with her. Then she was being asked for her ID, which is kind of standard with the police, but at the same time, I don't know that that happens to everybody that doesn't look like they're presumed to be a threat by the police. I think a lot of people just get treated like they must be the victim and kind of get coddled by the police. And I think that that should be a part of police reform. When people talk about police reform, I'm not a person who's at all against police reform. I am against what's happening in California, where the police can't do their jobs and where people aren't being prosecuted, and there's really no incentive for people to stay out of trouble. I'm not for that at all. But then on the other end, you do have situations where the police are outright mistreating people. And yeah, in some cases, those people do tend to be black and brown people. And so I think a part of police reform should be not only training officers in how to deal with people that are dealing with mental illness, but also in better screening with police officers and finding out what an officer's biases are, what exactly an officer thinks about different groups of people, and the way that they'll approach different groups of people. So as she's being questioned about who she is and trying to find her ID, and she wants them to look at some paperwork she has, which I fully do acknowledge, she was going through some sort of mental break. That had to be happening. So yes, I can understand how the police would want to be on alert with her. I'm not completely against the police in the way that they were handling the situation when it came to that, because yeah, she was acting a little bit weird. So then all of a sudden there's some water, and I guess it started steaming or boiling or whatever, and so she got up to turn it off, and then they told her,
We don't need a fire while we're here.
And so she goes over to get the water, and then one of the officers backs away. It's the officer, the partner, not the one that actually ended up doing the shooting. So what happened was she goes over to turn off the water. Once she goes over to turn off the water, the officers back away. She asked them, and then the officer says,
away from your hot steaming water.
and then she says,
Oh, I rebuke you in the name of Jesus.
so then immediately the officer jumps to,
You better not. I swear to God, I'll shoot you right in your face.
and then immediately after that, he draws his gun, which in my opinion, that is a complete overreaction to what is going on. They were still far enough away from her that had she thrown the pot of boiling water, which I don't really think was at all her plan or her intention, but had she thrown that boiling water, it would not have reached them, maybe a couple of drops. And I know boiling hot water can do some actual damage, so I'm not acting like boiling water could not be a potential weapon. It definitely could. I do not deny that. But at the same time, if you're far enough away from it, we all know it's only going to go so far. So to act like you thought there was a threat against your life because this person was moving a pot of boiling water that you agree should have been moved off the burner, and immediately cut to that, and then she had put the boiling water down and she got down. She said, "I'm sorry," right after she realized, because I really do think she was joking with the tone in which she said, "I rebuke you in the name of Jesus." To me, it sounded like she was, in her head, thought that she was being silly. And so when they pull the guns, she right away ducks down and says, "I'm sorry." Then they walk around the corner, and this is where some people feel like it was justified, was because at that point, once they walk around the corner of the counter with guns drawn, and you can see all this on the body cam footage, once they walk around that corner with guns drawn, she then threw the boiling hot water at them. But that seems to be in her trying to defend herself from people that, especially if you're going through a psychotic break, you might think are hunting you at that point. You've got two people coming around a corner of a counter while you're down low that have guns drawn on you. So even in your normal state of mind, and if you weren't going through some sort of break, I could see how you would feel that this is a threat and you have to defend yourself. As human beings, that's the way we're designed. There is a fight or flight in all of us. So the police can't trigger that and then act like she had come at them. No, you came at her in her own home when she had called you there to help protect her. Like when she was down, had they said, "Please get on your stomach," I think that that would have been a better way to handle it in that situation. And thank God for body cams, because afterwards the officer made it sound like the woman came at him with a pot of boiling water.
Where's he going?
No, she had a boiling water and came at me with boiling water.
You shot her?
Yeah. She said she was going to rebuke me in the name of Jesus and came out with boiling water.
So for that officer to think that it was okay at that point to start shooting, and then also afterwards to say that because she had already been shot in the head, that they shouldn't administer any medical attention to her, or that the other officer that was on the scene and could have possibly done something right away, and it seemed like wanted to do something right away, shouldn't administer any help at all, does not make sense to me. And then afterwards, for that same officer, Officer Grayson, to refer to her as a crazy bitch, or saying,
Yeah, I'm good. This bitch is crazy.
to me is also disrespectful and shows how little he actually thought about her. And no matter what anybody says about anything, I don't think that a person like that should be a police officer at all. I don't think a person like that should be in charge of protecting and serving. A person that would talk like that about a person that they had just, in my opinion, unjustifiably shot. And I think that the legal system also agrees, because he has been charged with first-degree murder. So for the people that just want to ride hard for him and act like because he's an officer, we should all be understanding about it. Understand that even the justice system is not on his side in this particular situation. And I know some people are going to say that the cops are scared. I have always said that if cops are that afraid to do their jobs, then those aren't the jobs that they should have. I'm tired of hearing that the cops are scared. People always want us to understand that the cops are scared. Well, then don't be an officer. If you're that scared that your reactions are going to lead to other people losing their lives, lives, then I don't think that you're fit to be a police officer. And I think that that's something that needs to be addressed during the screening for hiring police officers. And like I said, I know some people are going to get mad at me for this because some people feel like no matter what, she should not have behaved in that manner. But I don't think a lot of people that take that stance understand what it's like to be treated like the criminal in all instances by the police, because that's something I've dealt with for quite a bit of my life now, where no matter what goes on, I am always treated like the criminal. And that's something a lot of black and brown and also poor white people are used to dealing with. And I guess there does have a racial component to it when you consider that technically the neighborhood that she was living in didn't look like a bad neighborhood. It didn't look like she was what you could consider a poor person. But I think it does on some levels speak to the race situation in America that brown and black people, almost no matter where they live, are going to be treated the same as a poor white person. And so I say this because if you've noticed, a lot of brown and black people right now are supporting Donald Trump. And in order for brown or black people to feel seen by Donald Trump, I think he has to come out and address this. Because I'm a person that in the Trayvon Martin situation, I didn't feel like they were being honest with us. So I wasn't particularly on Trayvon Martin's side, although I wasn't on George Zimmerman's side either. But I wasn't just clear cut one of the Trayvon Martin supporters. When it came to the Michael Brown situation, I thought Michael Brown was one of the worst human beings, but I thought it was important what happened with him because they did uncover that there was a problem with racism in Ferguson, Missouri. And that was something that they did an investigation on, and the findings were that there was a problem with racism within the police force in Ferguson, Missouri. So I think that even though Michael Brown wasn't a good poster boy, he was important in helping people uncover the fact that there was actually a problem in Ferguson, Missouri. Did I think that things should have been burnt down in his honor? Do I think that the world should have gone crazy the way that it did for him and made it seem like he was some sort of saint or hero? No, I most definitely don't. But at the same time, like I said, it helped to uncover something. So I say all this to say that I think that if Donald Trump wants to keep brown and black voters, that this situation is going to probably be a deciding factor for some of those voters. As for me, I gotta say, I'm a Donald Trump supporter through and through because overall, I think what he's doing is going to be more helpful for America. So either way, I will be voting for him. I'm not at all wavering, but when it comes to the way that our leaders handle this situation, I think that it's going to be pivotal in election 2024. And so I'm really hoping that Donald Trump comes out and is maybe a little bit more clear on what his idea of immunity looks like when it comes to the police. Anyway, that's my thoughts. And I know this was more serious than what I usually do. I'll be back to being fun tomorrow, like I said. But for now, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. As always, this has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.
They bought into his bullshit.